Shalom, everybody. We're going to talk about Derek Chauvin and this thing they decided to make up that George Floyd died of fentanyl. I mean, if this is not the most laughable thing, and let's talk about it. I think it's silly. We all saw the video, but if people want to act silly, then let's bring it to them. That's the way I see it. And by the time I get done with this live stream, those same people that say that, they're going to be plenty mad with me. You can best believe they will. So let me start out with a story that came out this past spring. Now, we know Derek Chauvin did not only abuse George Floyd, there were many other people that he abused in a similar manner. So this past spring, y'all, the city of Minneapolis paid out $9 million for Derek Chauvin's misconduct. So my question to you out there, were those fentanyl addicts too? Were all these people fentanyl addicts too? And y'all show me the white example of a fentanyl addict on the street, and then the cop shows up and put their knee on that fentanyl addict's neck. Show us the equivalent of that in the white community. Show us the equivalent of that. Because these other people said the same thing, that he choked them, he kneeled on them, he abused these people, and the city had to shell out $9 million for all the claims. You know what this means? Derek Chauvin was a rotten ass police officer, and he got away with doing this for what, 19 years? And nobody would do nothing to him until he took the life of George Floyd. That's when they had to act, because it was too much video evidence of the murder. But prior to that, There were plenty of complaints against this dude. He was a terrible, rotten, evil monster of a cop. That's what he was. So let's talk about some of these cases. Let's talk about it. So he abused other people. And, initially, when Derek Chauvin was on trial for the murder of George Floyd, some of those people were going to testify and they scrapped it at the last minute. Some of y'all might remember this. So let's get into it. So, 3 years before Derek Chauvin took the life of George Floyd, as he cried out he couldn't breathe, he did this to others. He did this to others. So, an officer had answered a call for a domestic dispute, and this woman, her name was Zoya Code. She said he forced her down to the ground as she tried to pull away. He just stayed on my neck. He ignored her desperate pleas to get up. Code said, frustrated, upset, she challenged him to press harder than he did, just to shut me up, she said. In January, a judge in Minnesota ruled that the prosecutor could present details of her case, which took place in 2017. And so this was 3 years prior to George Floyd. So, all of you people claiming that it was fentanyl, was it fentanyl in this case too? He put the knee on this woman and she couldn't breathe. So, was she all pumped up with fentanyl too? I need to ask. So, Code was one of 6 arrests made as far back as 2015. This is according to the Minnesota Attorney General's office, sought to introduce, arguing that they showed how Chauvin was using excessive force when he restrained people by their necks or by kneeling on top of them. So I guess those 6 people were on fentanyl just like George Floyd, huh? So Derek Chauvin was never reprimanded for any of these excessive force acts that he did to other people. Of the 6 people, they said 2 were Black, 1 Latino, 1 Native American, and 2 they did not disclose the race of those people. So that those are more likely Black people. Okay. I guess they weren't trying to make it look too bad. So they did not disclose their race. So, ladies and gentlemen, this did come up. Just before the trial, all these people, in fact, some of them were interviewed about how Derek Chauvin did the same thing to them as well. Now, in Derek Chauvin's police career, there were 22 complaints. 22 complaints on Derek Chauvin in 19 years. 22 complaints against Derek Chauvin in 19 years. He was a rotten MFer when he was on the streets. That's what that means. So when they interviewed these people, they said not only did it show he used excessive force in the past, that their stories were strikingly similar. So he had a habit of going out there and trying to choke out people. He had a habit of doing this. So I guess those 22 complaints, were those people all on fentanyl too? I'm just asking you people that are putting it out there. Were these people on fentanyl too? All he did was run around acting like an uncivilized beast and costing the city that he worked in $9 million because he ran around acting like he had no home training whatsoever. Lindell Williams, thank you so much for the super sticker. I mean, so are these people on fentanyl too? Folks got some. So, y'all, let's get into Tucker Carlson. Let's get into what he recently came out of his non-existent lips and that he put out here for the world to hear. Now, we already know just from what I've read to you, Derek Chauvin was a problematic police officer. They just chose to ignore him because of what he is. And you can't come and I'm white and I say so this because we all saw the video of George Floyd literally died in front of us. Tucker Carlson comes out in support of Derek Chauvin, says serving 21 years in prison for a crime. Yes, because he committed a crime. He should be in there actually for the rest of his life, if nothing else. If, in my opinion, they didn't charge him enough. So he goes on to say one of the greatest moral atrocities in the last several years was taking place right before us, and very few are remarking upon it. And it has to do with Derek Chauvin. So, this is what the former Fox News anchor said. Carlson reiterated his support for the ex police officer Derek Chauvin in his latest edition of talk shows on X. You know what look, after hearing what kind of cop Derek Chauvin was, if you support that, you're just as rotten as he is. You're as rotten as he is. That's why you support it. Devil supporting another devil. So we know Chauvin is currently serving 21 years in jail. So, and this is for murdering George Floyd, but Tucker believes otherwise. So, one of the greatest moral atrocities in the last several years was taking place right before us, and very few are remarking upon it. And it has to do with Derek Chauvin, Carlson said, while introducing Gregory Erickson, Chauvin's attorney in the case, while suggesting Floyd was not choked to death. He most likely died of a drug overdose. Okay, well, show us the equivalent of we seen your opioid addicts because I did the stories all the time. They would be stretched out on streets, sidewalks, lawns, everywhere. I never seen a cop come up and put his knee on any of those opioid addicts. So show us the equivalent of how when a cop shows up and somebody is ODing, they run up and immediately put their knee on their neck. Show us the example of that. Show us the example of that. And if you really want to get technical with this whole thing, Derek Chauvin is still in the wrong. Aren't these cops supposed to be running around with Narcan? If he was having a drug overdose, why didn't Derek Chauvin pull out the Narcan? And don't try to say cops don't have that. They most certainly do. They most certainly do. And I can pull the stories up because I did those stories. I did the videos on it. Cops do have Narcan. So Derek Chauvin would still be in the wrong for not administering that aid to George Floyd. So no matter how you look at it, he's still in the wrong. I never seen treatment for a drug addict. You put a knee on the neck of a drug addict. I never seen that as a form of treatment. So no matter what, even if I go by your argument that it was fentanyl, he is still in the wrong. So let's go on. While suggesting Floyd was not choked to death, he died of a drug overdose. Now, let me ask you, when did all you white people become drug experts? When did y'all all become a drug expert? And I don't recall anybody giving him any form of drug testing out on that street. Did we see any testing for DUI or DWI on George Floyd? There was no testing done on this, but now white people are all experts on somebody ODing on drugs. Isn't this amazing, y'all? Isn't this amazing? They're all experts. And no testing was done on the street when he was murdered. So let's go on. And we know that conclusively because the medical examiner who performed the autopsy on George Floyd confirmed that it was not asphyxiation. That's false. That's false. That's false. He did die from asphyxiation, and the first medical examiner said so. So what he is telling you is false. Y'all, look, these stories are there. And this was presented in court during the case. So Tucker Carlson is an idiot. This was presented in court. That's why Derek Chauvin was given 22 and a half years, because it was determined that it was asphyxia. This was said in court. I followed the case. So he's just straight up lying. So he goes on and said Floyd had fatal levels of fentanyl in his system. Now, y'all saw fentanyl addicts. Usually, fentanyl addicts are usually stretched out on the street because fentanyl is a downer. It does not pep you up. You saw how he was walking around in a store and he was alert. But when you see someone ODing on fentanyl, trust me, y'all, they are knocked off of their feet. And I've done the videos on it. I've done the videos on that and showed these addicts before in the past. There is no way, as alert as he was strung out on fentanyl like that. They would have had to drag this man off of the street or drag him out of the store if he was in there on fentanyl. Pull up, let me pull it up. Hold on. Hold on, y'all. I'm going to stop right here because I'm going to pull up fentanyl addicts so you can look at what condition they're in. They're usually almost practically comatose. All right, let's pull them up. Fentanyl addicts. All right, hold on. I'm going to pull up a few pictures. All right, here's one. I'm going to show you this one. Hold on. This is what fentanyl addicts look like, y'all. This is a picture of fentanyl addicts, two people strung out on the street on fentanyl. Now, let me ask you a question. When we saw George Floyd, did he look like this? Did he look like this? Did George Floyd look like this when he was being arrested? These are fentanyl addicts. This is what they look like. When they are strung out, they can barely move. George Floyd did not look like that. These are fentanyl addicts. And don't come back with no, well, they all ain't the same. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. When they are overdosing on fentanyl, because y'all said overdosing on fentanyl. When people are overdosing on fentanyl, this is what they look like, y'all. This is what they look like. They can't even get up and move around. George Floyd was moving around on his 2 feet. So, since they are such experts on him being overdosing on fentanyl, well, what time did he take this fentanyl? Because when they take this stuff, it hits their system pretty quickly. Okay, so what time did he take the fentanyl? You know every damn thing else. What time did he take it? I can show you more pictures of fentanyl addicts. Okay, if anything, you can barely move when you are strung out on fentanyl. George Floyd was walking around and they put him in that car and took him out the car, handcuffed him, and they walked around with George Floyd. Okay, I know what a fentanyl addict look like. I can show you another one. I know what these people look like, and what they're saying is BS. It's BS. Okay, these people cannot, if you went out there with these two guys and try to get them on their feet, they would fall back down to the ground. All right, let me show you. Let me see if I can get another picture for you to see. All right, I'm going to show you this next picture. All right, here's somebody else strung out on fentanyl, and you can see the EMTs are trying to give them oxygen. This is somebody strung out on fentanyl. Okay, I don't recall George Floyd looking like this on the streets. All right, I know, like I said, I know what a fentanyl addict look like. All right, so this is a fentanyl addict being given oxygen out on the street. This is somebody that's OD'd on fentanyl. Sure don't look like it sure looks far different from George Floyd that day, don't it? Yeah, well, y'all can go ahead with it because you sure ain't gonna get me to believe that. Okay, so let's get back to it. I'm gonna share the screen on. I'm gonna go back to that. Here we go. All right, so let's go on with Tucker Carlson and his BS. Now, all of a sudden, he's such an expert. So let's go back. So Floyd had fatal levels of fentanyl in his system. Now, I just showed you people strung out and had fatal levels of fentanyl. They can barely move, they can't move at all. Okay. Added Carlson on his uncensored show a piece of information that Carlson described as known for some time, though again ignored. No, it ain't being ignored because it didn't happen. Okay, what you're saying didn't happen. Y'all are doing what we see you do all the time. You're trying to rewrite history. You're trying to rewrite what happened, and it's just not going to work. Not going to work. This is why Derek Chauvin, he ain't getting out of jail. He got stabbed up 22 times, and he still can't get out of jail because that's where he belongs. He's exactly where he belongs. And he has proven himself to be a very dangerous cop out on the street. He's one of many in America. Notably, Chauvin, a white skinned ex police officer, was found guilty in April of 2021 of second degree unintentional murder, third degree murder, second degree manslaughter, in the death of a black skinned man, George Floyd. Oh, way to go, Tucker. Way to go. Way to go in your description here. So anyway, you can tell who he's playing up, y'all. He got the white supremacist audience that he's playing up to. Earlier, Carlson had a case in Hennepin County, Minnesota, in which alleged conversations with the Hennepin County medical examiner suggested that Floyd had no neck injuries at the time of his death. Again, this was all brought out in court. You can go back and listen to the court case from beginning to end. He did have injuries. They did say he died of asphyxia. They did say the cause of it was Derek Chauvin pressing his knee down on his neck. This was all said in the courts when Derek Chauvin was still on trial, y'all. So again, he's trying to rewrite what was actually said and done in this whole case. And Tucker, you're falling flat. A claim that was debunked by Newsweek in its fact check, informing that the autopsy did not record neck injuries and other life-threatening, injuries. However, the report concluded that Floyd died from cardiopulmonary arrest, complicated law enforcement subdual, restraint, and neck compression. That's what he died of. Okay. But according to Tucker, there was no injuries on his neck. Well, according to the actual medical examiner, that was written on there and said he did indeed have those injuries. So on November 24th, after Thanksgiving, Chauvin was stabbed 22 times by another inmate with an improvised knife. Now, the man who stabbed him is a known FBI informant. Another claim Carlson made on his show. Derek Chauvin is out of the hospital and back in Tucson. Yeah, but we don't know what I don't believe Derek Chauvin is in the same condition. I really don't. And if they had to use life threatening measures, resuscitation, which I believe they had to do, then Derek Chauvin is probably still not in good shape at all. Okay. I don't know. Maybe Derek Chauvin didn't get stabbed 22 times. Maybe he had a fentanyl overdose, y'all. Maybe that's what really happened. Maybe we should become fentanyl experts too and say Derek Chauvin was stretched out on the floor, not because he got stabbed 22 times, but because he was on fentanyl. How do you like those apples? Okay. unbelievable what these people will try to do. All of the opioid and fentanyl addicts in their own community, instead of worrying about George Floyd, you need to worry about how you going to work on getting that mess out of your own community. Because the last time I looked, nobody is going through the epidemic like the white community is, with fentanyl, opioid, and heroin and meth, all of that stuff. So instead of focusing on George Floyd, why don't you fix those things? Nah, what I mean? So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. And those of you that will be with me Bible study, I will see you then. And as for the rest of you, please enjoy the rest of your day. Let me see. I think somebody else made Grace P. Thank you also for your super chat. Hi, Lisa. Always listening to you from London. I must be addicted. LOL. Well, thank you for being here, Grace. And again, Lindell Williams, thank you so much for the super sticker. And everybody, please enjoy the rest of your day. Shalom.